like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at relationship advice.
Yeah, and not just any advice.
No.
We're going right to the source, the people who've actually made it work long term.
The people with experience.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we're dissecting Mark Manson's article, 1,500 People Give All the Relationship Advice You'll Ever Need.
And it's pretty fascinating. Just the sheer number of people who weighed in is amazing. But even more than that, what really stood out is how much overlap there was.
Right. Like all these different people from all walks of life are saying the same things.
Exactly.
You know what this reminds me of?
Yeah.
I'm always the person at weddings, cornering the older couples, trying to squeeze their secrets to marital bliss out of them.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
This article's like, I got to eavesdrop on 1,500 wedding receptions at once. It's amazing.
And one of the things that came up over and over again, especially from the people who had been divorced, was that their relationship started for the wrong reasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, things like societal pressure, or feeling lonely, or thinking that a partner would fix their own personal problems.
So they were looking for happily ever after out of a fairy tale.
Yeah, they thought it would just magically happen.
But we all know those butterflies eventually fade.
Right. It's funny, even ancient cultures saw passionate love as a kind of sickness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's almost like nature's trick. That initial intensity, it makes sure we procreate, but it's not built to last forever.
So we're debunking the myth of happily ever after right off the bat.
Totally. The real deal, the true love, that's the choice to stay committed even when it's tough, even when you don't feel those butterflies.
So then what's the secret sauce? What holds these long-term couples together?
Well, surprisingly, the number one thing that people mentioned wasn't communication.
Oh, that's interesting. What was it?
It was respect.
Respect. Even more than communication.
Yep, it's about the foundation. Think about it, when you genuinely respect your partner, you're going to listen to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You'll actually consider their viewpoint, even if you don't agree.
So respect is like a buffer. It keeps things from getting too heated.
Exactly. It allows you to disagree without being disagreeable. And the article gives some great examples of what this looks like in practice.
Like what?
Well, one thing a lot of people mentioned was not bad-mouthing your partner to your friends.
Oh, yeah.
It might seem harmless, but it actually chips away at that respect. And that ultimately impacts how you view your partner.
It's like airing your dirty laundry.
Exactly. And as one reader put it, once you lose respect, you will never get it back.
Oof. That's harsh but true.
Yeah, and it can show up in sneaky ways, like little digs or eye rolls.
Those can definitely sting.
Right. They might seem small, but they're slowly eroding the foundation of your relationship.
So if respect is the bedrock, what about individuality? The article talked about the importance of two healthy individuals, not two halves of a whole.
Right, because merging into one blob can actually stifle the very things that attracted you to each other in the first place.
It's like trying to cram two fully grown trees into one tiny pot.
Exactly. They'd end up competing for resources, and neither one would thrive.
So you want a garden where each person can flourish.
Right. And the article even suggests things like keeping some separate hobbies and even finances.
Oh, that's interesting. That feels counterintuitive. Doesn't that create distance?
Not necessarily. Think of it like two streams that merge to form a river. They keep their individual identities, but they're flowing in the same direction.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the key is open communication and clear agreements.
So it's about collaboration, not separation.
Right. It's about recognizing that you're two separate people choosing to be together because you want to, not because you need to. And that goes back to respect, trusting your partner to make their own choices.
And that their choices will ultimately enrich the relationship.
Exactly. It's like adding different spices to a dish.
Instead of just having one bland flavor.
Right. You want to keep things interesting.
That's a great analogy. Now let's be real. Every couple faces conflict at some point.
Of course.
The article actually talks about John Gottman's research. He spent his whole career studying couples.
He's like the relationship whisperer.
Exactly. And he found that successful couples still fight.
They do, but they fight differently.
So it's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
Right. It's about how you handle it. And Gottman actually identified 4 communication patterns that are like red flags for divorce.
Oh, no. The 4 horsemen of the relationship apocalypse.
Yep, they're pretty intense. The first one is criticism, attacking your partner's character instead of focusing on the specific behavior.
Oh, so like saying, you're always so messy, instead of, hey, could you help me clean up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second one is defensiveness, shifting the blame instead of taking responsibility.
Okay, and then what?
The third one is contempt, putting your partner down, making them feel inferior.
Ouch. And the final horseman.
Stonewalling. Shutting down emotionally, withdrawing from the conversation.
Wow, I'm definitely guilty of a few, though.
Well, the good news is just recognizing those patterns is the first step to changing them. And the article has tons of tips from readers on how to fight fair.
Like what?
Well, things like taking a time out when things get heated, focusing on understanding each other's perspective instead of trying to be right.
It's not about winning the argument.
Exactly. It's about finding a solution together. And most importantly, avoiding those four horsemen.
So fighting fair is key. But what about making up? Is resolving every conflict essential for a happy relationship? Or is there room for healthy disagreement?
You know, that's where Gottman's research gets even more interesting. He found that happy couples don't always solve all their problems.
What, really? I thought compromise was the holy grail.
Yeah, it's a common misconception. But what Gottman found is that forcing agreement on everything can backfire.
Oh, interesting. How so?
It can lead to resentment. You can start to feel like you're losing yourself in the relationship.
Like you're having to compromise who you are.
Exactly. One reader described it as losing pieces of yourself. So it's not about erasing those differences.
It's about acknowledging and respecting them.
Right. Choosing to love your partner despite them. Not because they agree with you on everything.
That's so freeing. It
Yeah.
takes the pressure off.
It does. And it allows space for both people to be their authentic selves.
So you're not trying to fit each other into a mold.
Right. And those differences can actually make the relationship stronger, more interesting.
It's like those couples who've been through thick and thin together.
They have this unshakable bond because they've faced challenges side by side.
Exactly. And those challenges don't have to be huge life events.
No, sometimes it's the everyday stuff, the little annoyances that really test a relationship.
And it's how you handle those moments that make all the difference.
Right. It's about choosing to see those bumps in the road as opportunities for growth and connection.
Instead of threats to the relationship.
Exactly. And welcome back. You know, we were talking about those fundamental qualities, respect, trust, forgiveness. And I think it's a perfect segue into some of the more practical advice that came up in the article.
Okay, so how do we actually put those principles into practice?
Well, one thing that surprised me was how many people talked about the importance of setting rules in a relationship.
Oh, really?
Rules!
Yeah, I know it sounds a little unromantic, right?
Yeah, like a contract for love.
Right. But it's not about being rigid or controlling. It's more about having clear expectations from the start.
Okay. So like a shared roadmap for navigating life together.
Exactly. And it can
Yeah.
cover all sorts of things like finances, chores, decision-making.
Oh yeah, those can be big sources of conflict if you're not on the same page.
Absolutely. And remember, we all have different values and priorities. What seems perfectly reasonable to one person might be a deal breaker for another.
So it's better to have those potentially awkward conversations up front.
Right. Get everything out in the open. Especially when it comes to money. That's a huge one.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, money represents different things to different people. Exactly. For some, it's about security. For others, it's about freedom. And if you don't have a shared understanding of how you're going to handle it, it can lead to all sorts of problems down the road.
Makes sense. Now, what about chores? The article mentioned that too.
Yeah, and again, it might seem mundane, but think about it. We all have different tolerances for mess.
Oh, yeah.
What one person considers organized chaos might drive another person crazy.
Definitely been there.
And if you don't talk about it, those unspoken expectations can build up resentment over time.
It's like you expect your partner to just read your mind.
Right. So instead of assuming, it's much healthier to have an open and honest conversation about those everyday things.
So it's about creating a shared understanding of responsibilities.
Exactly. Not about who's right or wrong, but about what works for both of you.
It's like building a house together. You need a blueprint.
I like that analogy. And just like a well-designed house, a strong relationship needs a framework for collaboration.
So those rules aren't set in stone. They can evolve as the relationship grows.
Right. It's about having a starting point for those practical aspects of life together.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about forgiveness? We all know it's important, but it can be so hard in practice.
Absolutely. Forgiveness, it's one of those things that's easier said than done.
Especially when you're hurt or angry.
Right. But think about it. These couples we're talking about, they've been together for years, decades even. They haven't achieved that by avoiding conflict altogether.
So they've messed up and forgiven each other countless times.
Exactly. And that's what allows them to move forward without holding on to resentment.
So it's not about erasing the past, but about integrating it into the fabric of the relationship.
Right. And one of the keys is remembering that your partner is human. They make mistakes.
Sometimes big ones.
Yeah. But the important thing is to separate the intention from the behavior.
What do you mean?
Well, ask yourself, did my partner hurt me intentionally? Or was it a mistake? Were they trying their best but just messed up?
So it's about assuming good intent.
Right. Give them the benefit of the doubt. And remember all the things you love and admire about them.
It's like focusing on the whole tapestry of the relationship instead of getting stuck on one loose thread.
I love that. And forgiveness isn't just about letting go. It's also about choosing to move forward.
Without bringing up the past.
Exactly. One reader put it this way: when an argument is over, it's over. Don't bring it up again, no matter how tempting.
That takes discipline.
It does.
Mm.
But it prevents you from getting stuck in that toxic cycle of rehashing old wounds.
Holding on to those past hurts, it's like carrying around a bag of rocks.
Right. It weighs you down and prevents you from moving freely in the relationship.
Forgiveness is like setting down that burden.
Exactly. It frees you up to connect with your partner on a deeper level.
So it's a daily practice.
It is a conscious choice to release those negative feelings and make space for love and understanding.
And that's what builds trust.
Exactly. Trust, it's the foundation of any healthy relationship.
And it's built on consistency, knowing that your partner will be there for you.
Right. That they'll keep their promises. That they have your best interests at heart.
The article also talked about the importance of respecting each other's individuality.
Yeah, and that ties into trust in a big way. When you trust your partner enough to give them space for their own interests and pursuits, you're saying, I believe in you.
I trust you to make good choices.
Exactly, and I support your growth.
So it's not about trying to control them or change them.
Right. It's about celebrating their uniqueness and trusting them to make their own way in the world.
It's about recognizing that you are two whole individuals choosing to share a journey together.
And that those individual journeys can actually enrich the relationship.
You bring back new experiences, new ideas, new energy.
Exactly. It keeps things fresh and exciting.
It's like each partner is contributing a unique piece to the puzzle.
Right. Creating a more vibrant and interesting whole. And remember, both you and your partner will change and evolve over time.
So it's not about finding someone who will stay exactly the same forever.
No, it's about choosing someone who will journey alongside you.
Embracing those twists and turns together.
Exactly. And that journey, with all its ups and downs, can be incredibly rewarding.
It's about choosing to see those changes, those challenges, as opportunities for growth and deeper connection.
Instead of threats to the relationship.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective.
It is. It's about embracing the adventure, knowing that you're not alone.
That you have a partner by your side to navigate those uncharted waters.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the image of riding those ocean waves.
Sometimes they're gentle, sometimes they're rough.
But as long as you're both holding on tight and supporting each other, you'll make it through to the other side.
And we are back for the final part of our deep dive.
I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's like we're uncovering all these little gems of wisdom.
I know, me too. And what's really cool is how it's both practical and inspiring. It's not just about the mechanics of a relationship.
Way, it's about the heart.
Exactly. And one of the things that really stood out to me was this quote from one of the readers. They said, "Make love even when you are not in the mood." Oh, wow. That's a bold statement.
It is, but before anyone gets the wrong idea, it's not about obligation or ignoring consent. That's absolutely crucial.
Of course, mutual desire and respect are non-negotiables.
Absolutely. What this reader is getting at is the importance of nurturing intimacy even when life gets busy. Sometimes just choosing to be physically close can reignite that spark.
It's like remembering that physical touch is a love language.
Exactly. It can speak volumes even when words fail. And speaking of love languages, the article emphasized how important it is to express love in ways that your partner actually understands and appreciates.
It's not just about saying, "I love you."
Right. It's about figuring out what makes your partner feel loved. Is it acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time?
It's about speaking their language.
Exactly. And remember, those love languages can change over time, so it's an ongoing process of discovery.
You got to keep those communication lines open.
Right. Now, another phrase that stuck with me was pamper and adore each other.
Oh, I like that.
It's simple, but so powerful. It's about making your partner feel cherished.
Not just on special occasions.
Right. Every day, in the little moments. It's so easy to get caught up in routines and forget to do those little things.
Like a quick hug or a compliment.
Exactly. But those gestures, they keep the flame burning bright. They remind you why you fell in love in the first place.
It's like a constant renewal of your vows.
I love that. Now, as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I want to ask you, what's resonating with you? What are you taking away from this conversation?
Honestly, I'm feeling really inspired. It's so easy to get stuck in those negative thought patterns like, this is just how relationships are, or my partner will never change.
Right. We all do it.
But this article, it's like a reminder that I have the power to shape my own relationship.
That's a huge realization. And, it's okay to ask for help along the way.
Right? Therapy can be a game changer.
Absolutely. One reader even suggested going to counseling before you need it, just to get those tools and strategies in place.
That's a great idea. It takes the pressure off.
It does, and it shows that you're both committed to making the relationship work.
It's like a proactive approach to relationship maintenance.
Exactly. Relationships, they're like any living thing. They need care and attention.
So it's not about finding the perfect relationship.
Right. It's about making a conscious choice to cultivate a loving and fulfilling partnership.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
Beautifully said. And as we close, I want to leave everyone with one last piece of advice from the article. It's so simple, but so powerful. Print this and refer to it daily.
I love that. It's a reminder that these insights aren't just a one-time thing.
Right. They're a guide for the ongoing adventure of love. And remember, your love story is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
But with the wisdom of those who've come before us, we can create relationships that are both enduring and fulfilling.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of relationship advice.
We hope you found it valuable and inspiring.
And until next time, may your relationships be filled with love, respect, and all those little things that make life truly special.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show the